And so it begins, folks. Welcome to day one of Special Projects Pack number 11. Of course, we're kicking it off with the hero car from the trailer, the Toyota GT-One road version. You knew it was coming, I alluded to it. You can't have a GT-One in a game with a livery editor without at least a few people, in this case, loads of people, making a road-going livery. So if you do want to pick up a different one to the one that I'm using, for example, I chose this one because I like the fact that it still has the tyre stickers as well. Accuracy or not, it just adds a lot to the visuals. So like I said, if you think that a particular red or a particular license plate on a different one looks better, then that's fine. I will have linked it in the description below though if you do want to download this one. And of course I do that all week, whether it's my livery or another player's design. And this one is a pretty simple build to do. We're running basically like Gran Turismo 6, or Gran Turismo 2 I should say, numbers, plus real life as well. So 593 horsepower, 900 kilos, and as it turns out, the point level isn't too bad, 739. Now, of course, being in Group 2, there's still not a huge amount you're going to be able to use it for in the road car kind of stuff, but much like the Dower 962 LM replica that I did, it's more of like a what if, to gauge what a vehicle like this would feel like were it in the game. Something that might even be able to take on, the Aston Martin Valkyrie perhaps at its own game. And even then, it wouldn't be that quick necessarily because of the march of time moving on. But as far as this one, you don't need to do too much in terms of swapping out parts. In particular, you do want the power restrictor, and I would recommend having some sports tyres, just to make it a bit more realistic to the road. So I've gone for sports hards. For the suspension, we've got the ride height on 46 and 77, 5 for the anti-roll, 30 for the dampers on compression, 40 and 35 for the rebound, 3.85 for the spring frequency, 2 degrees of camber, and then as far as the toe, I've towed out, 0.10 on the front, towed in, 0.20 on the rear. As far as the diff, we've got 10, 30 and 20, no NOS fitted. I've chosen to leave it with a standard transmission as well, just for that existing authenticity of the car, and it's not like you really need to change the ratios that much for this one. As far as the power restrictor, just drop it down to 97. As far as the ECU, you want to drop that down to 80%. As far as downforce, this really is down to you. I would imagine that the real-life road car probably had adjustable downforce anyway. It would be difficult to imagine that it didn't when it had that integrated rear wing, so I've opted to have it as low as possible for the same reason as the tyres. You want it to feel more realistic and a little bit more, not necessarily handicapped, but you want it to feel more like an actual road car, something that's not so OP that it's ridiculous. You want to have a bit of a challenge, So that's why I've gone for the lower downforce, plus of course you have better top-end speed as well, which is never a bad thing. As far as the anti-lag, I've got that turned off completely. Again, personal preference, but I wanted it again to feel more like a normal car, quote-unquote. And that's pretty much it as far as the tuning goes. So without any further ado, we'll jump out to the track, of course, and show you what it can do in practice. Certain things you already know are going to be the case. It's a GT-One. So regardless of the power that you've got on it, regardless of the tyres, it's going to be quick because it's a quick car. It looks fantastic. It's so cool to be able to finally make a proper road car again, especially with the full-on HD graphics of this game. The notes that I've made on this one, as far as, the recommendations for how to drive it, of course it's OP. I would say that the number one thing with this one is to treat it with respect and it will reward you. In particular, the lower downforce and the much lower grip of those tyres makes a big difference, of course, to the cornering and the approach that you have to take to the cornering. So I heard some people say that they found it a little bit slippery. This one doesn't really have that approach. If anything, it's the opposite, and I think the lack of grip on those tyres compared to racing tyres is the main reason. So it's got a lot more understeer as a quote-unquote road version than it would as the normal racing spec. And as far as spinning up the wheels, you definitely can. You'll see a little bit of fishtailing, and it builds to a fishtail. As the turbo really spools up, that's when you'll get a bit. So it's usually on the exit of a corner rather than mid-corner or as soon as you hit the throttle. So if you treat the car with respect, as I said, it's a very rewarding one to drive, and like with the Dower, it's not going to be the most useful thing in the world, but for those who do want to at least experience what the road version could or perhaps would feel like were it in the game, then of course that is the fun part. And I know some of you have bought multiple GT1s, so you can have one in this spec, and you can have one in a racing version, one in different point levels, etc. So that's it for kicking off the Pack 11. Of course, there's another one coming out later today, so stick around for that. And if you are new to the channel and haven't ever checked out Special Projects, well, in addition to having already over 100 of these on the channel, of course, stick around for the rest of the week to check out the other ones. But for now, thanks for watching.